What's wrong with your pumpkin?
It's farm fresh.
Do you mind if I carve it?
Ready? Go!
Oh, I'm tripping balls, man!
It's stalking us.
It's going after the carvers.
It's just a pumpkin.
This way, dum-dum!
There's kind of a killer pumpkin on the loose.
Or
This is how we celebrate pumpkins. We love pumpkins.
All right, welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by Justin Harding, director of Carved, now on Hulu. It's very cool to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I love this movie. It's very fun. I say it's good for a family film, but maybe not all kids are into it. But I think if your kids into slasher or into gore, they'll be into it. So
yeah,
how did it come about? Sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say you're right. It's not necessarily a gateway horror. It's like a step above that, but it's not going to be for hardcore horror fans. It's a movie made for a very certain demographic. You know, it's almost a horror movie made for people that don't really watch a lot of horror movies, but with that edge, that gore and that graphic edge to sort of introduce audiences to the genre.
Yeah, and I watch a lot of horror movies, and I enjoyed it. And I've been seeing a lot of word of mouth about it amongst people I know who they even love Terrifier and whatnot, and they were into Carve. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a movie that is it's definitely an homage, you know, to those 80s and 90s sort of like B movies that I grew up loving, that inspired me to start making movies like Tremors and movies like, you know, Evil Dead 2, even like Little Shop of Horrors, where, you know, it's super campy but very inventive with puppetry.
Yeah,
it's you know, when talking about bringing a movie to life about a killer pumpkin, it just felt like that was the direction. You know, I've always wanted to make something like kind of ridiculous and super funny and over the top, and that's you know, Carved gave us that opportunity to make something campy and gory and insane and bonkers, you know, to put out for a new generation.
Yeah. So how hands-on are you for the actual look of the pumpkin?
I'm very hands-on in terms of designing it. I mean, we did a short film 6 years ago and had a design that was done for that film, which was very much more a PG-13 style movie. And then as we developed this film and it became more of a toxic creature, I wanted to change the design to be something that's more of a monster that feels like it has real sentient, you know, essence to it without it being a jack-o'-lantern. You know, it seemed obvious to go into the jack-o'-lantern direction with this, but this pumpkin actually, you know, doesn't get carved. It does the carving. And so I wanted to make something that we haven't seen that's more unexpected. So very hands-on, you know, very alien, very like
the Thing.
Exactly. I mean, you know, in the original pitch deck, the inspiration for this in terms of, you know, what I'm paying homage to is very much The Thing and Aliens and Gremlins and Tremors and Little Shop of Horrors and even Slither, you know, to give it a kind of a gross, toxic, you know, vibe as a monster.
So when you made the short, which people could check out, it's on YouTube, was the plan like, I want to make this into a feature at some point?
Well, at the time it was really, it was just part of this Halloween special, the Halloween Film Festival. And I was just asked to pitch short, you know, film ideas that could fit into a Halloween special. You know, do you have anything that's spooky for Halloween? And at the time, I just thought a pumpkin that carves humans hasn't really been done before. We've seen pumpkins come to life in countless ways, but I've never actually seen pumpkins carving humans. It just seemed like such an obvious no-brainer for a Halloween story. And at the time, you know, these movies can sometimes turn into features, which Carved did. But at the time, I was just thinking about making a short, you know, and seeing and introducing this concept into the world and seeing if people like it.
Yeah, and the short's great too. I recommend people checking it out. And I was really excited that Chris Elliott is in it. I'm a huge fan of Chris Elliott, Cabin Boys. I love the show Get a Life. And whose decision was the voice he uses?
That's his decision. I mean, When I met him, he said he just didn't want to play a cliche farmer, like a hillbilly. He wanted to try something different, and he had different ideas, like a lobster fisherman, or this was his version of, I think, Tom Hardy in The Revenant. But he's a very, so I like his sort of oddball approach to some of the characters, and that's why I love Chris Elliott.
Yeah, and he nailed being different.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that he brought to the table that I thought was I mean, we were all laughing on set. It's like, okay, well, I've never seen this character before.
Yeah.
So let's go for it.
How did he get involved? Was he someone you sought out? Are you a Chris Elliott fan?
I am a huge Chris Elliott fan. I love Groundhog Day and Something About Mary. And in Scary Movie, his character is so funny. Huge fan, always have been. I wanted someone in that role that was an iconic comedic actor, or someone that's iconic from the 90s, really. And he was just on the list with some other actors that I was like, oh man, it'd be a dream to have this type of person in that role. And our casting director, Lindsay, was able to set up a meeting. And I got into a Zoom like this, and I showed him all the storyboards, and I storyboarded his whole death and how it was going to work. And we laughed, and he signed on.
Cool. Speaking of deaths, and this is a station of decapitation, so there's a lot of great decapitations. Not to spoil, there's even a cool scalping, which you don't always see in films. So had you done a lot of gore before in your other films?
Well, my short films, I've typically avoided doing a lot of gore in my short films. I always feature a monster, a creative creature. And then if you look at all my short films, it's always the same. The creature is always really not the evil thing in the movie. It's always the humans. And then that was the case here very much with the pumpkin. I wanted the audience at the end to feel like they're on the pumpkin side. If you look at my movie Latched, my short film, or Cookie, it's always the humans that are, it's very much the Guillermo del Toro style of creature design, where it's the monster is not the evil thing. This is literally, in my mind, this is a sentient being that was ripped from its environment, away from its family, and was put into this horrible situation where it had to witness its own kind being slaughtered all around it. And it just springs to life to protect itself and to get back to its family. And to me, like at the end, when the humans decide to, hijack, one of its kind and use it as bait to lure it in, I want the audience to feel bad for this pumpkin and to kind of be rooting for it. And that's been the case with all my movies. But I have done lots of gore in the past. I actually do Second Unit on Thanksgiving with Eli Roth. And on that film, our second unit handles a lot of the gore, like close-ups, a lot of the inserts, anything that doesn't involve like the actor's face, but the close-ups, we do a lot of that sort of thing. And I do love the craft of just practical effects. It's not just gore, really. In my mind, it's the idea of doing practical effects, period. Mostly in creature and monster design and bringing these things to life. And gore is just a part of that. The creativity and inventiveness needed is a real craft, and I'm passionate about that. So
in the movie you're directing, do you still work on the effects side?
Well, I storyboard everything. So I storyboard and plan it, and I work with a team. There's two guys that I love to work with, Alan Cook and Jonathan Craig. These two special effects artists are just so talented, and they're like two of my best friends. And so, I bring their creativity into it, and I try to storyboard every single shot or build previs animatics for all the shots. And I'm involved in that way. And then I do get sort of hands-on. I love getting hands-on and helping bring it to life, whether it's like puppeteering or helping, just kind of, execute it a certain way. But I work amongst this team that I love.
Yeah. And not so much effects or gore, but who built the corn wagon?
The corn wagon we purchased in, I think, Louisville, Kentucky. And our art department, Audrey Sirawat, and her team painted
another nice ode to Little Shop of Horrors. We get Audrey 3.
Yeah, Audrey 3. Yeah, so Audrey and her team painted and built the giant corn on top, and that was an actual truck that we purchased that we pulled out of a field in Louisville.
That's pretty amazing. So how important is Hulu? Because your original short was made for the Halloween marathon, and then you have the feature film. So how important was Hulu in getting Carve created?
Well, it's a Hulu original. So this was developed within the Hulu family, within the Hulu brand. And to me, as an independent filmmaker, they were amazing to work with, because they let us go ahead and go into this like bonkers direction with this film, and to make something that's a throwback to these like B movies, which you don't really see a lot of anymore. You know, a lot of a lot of horror is very dark and
Mean-spirited.
mean spirited, and I like that. I love mean movies.
I
like
do too.
Hereditary.
That's why I like my
They're
horror is all different things. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love that genre. But you know, when you're talking about a sentient pumpkin scalping people, this is essentially a movie where a Muppet murders people. Like that's what this is. And this is a very low budget handmade horror film, and Hulu embraced that approach. Didn't have any creative differences. Didn't make us like pull back on any of the gore, and we're just a fantastic partner. So you know, it's really a dream come true for indie filmmakers to work with a studio and a network like that.
Whose idea was to use the actual pumpkin for the posters? Because sometimes you don't want it to reveal the creature till you're watching the movie.
Well, Hulu they put forward 5 or 6 different poster options, and we all looked at them, and there was one that had just the monster, and I wasn't sure if we wanted to just give it up like that, but we talked about it, and it just made sense to lean into what this is. You know, this is a monster movie. This is a practical handmade monster movie. Let's lean into it.
Yeah, and there's so much stuff out there. I mean, honestly, caught my eye right away when I saw the post. Like, oh, this looks like something I might be into. So it worked.
Yeah, it's a killer pumpkin, but it's not a jack-o'-lantern. It's something else. This is a very unique approach to this genre, and the poster definitely sparked interest.
So, will we ever see a sequel to Carved? Will we see more in the Carved universe?
I hope so. I imagine that this first film is really just an introduction to the idea of this murderous, vengeful pumpkin. I have an entire sequel mapped out. I really do hope to take it places and to really show where the story can go from here. Because, like I said, the first one was just an introduction, and there's so much more we can do with this concept and with this franchise. But we just released this just over a week ago, so it's all very new. The world's reacting to it. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, cool. Well, congratulations on the movie, and I've been telling people to check it out. I really enjoyed it, not just because you're here, and I've seen a lot of people digging it. So go check out Carved, and thanks for doing the show.
Thanks very much. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm looking for a room.
How many guests?
Just one.
He's not that smart. You know we'll catch him.
Stop it! So where is he?
Maybe Paleface is back.
So what the hell happened? Gabe.
You know what? Look, I take responsibility for my choices in life, okay? I know what consequences are, but it's a two-way street. Something happened.
What did you do?
What was I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to get on a phone call 911?
Harley Phelps, U.S. Marshals, come to the door.
So we killed her?
Oh, hello.
No turning back. The password for the Wi-Fi? No turning back. Who are you?
Warrant arrest! It's not Paleface.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by writer, director, star James Morris of He Never Left, coming to theaters November 1st and then on VOD November 5th. So people not aware yet, can you give them an idea of what He Never Left is about?
He Never Left is about a fugitive on the run. He was kind of hiding out, trying to remain undetected, and he and his girlfriend kind of inadvertently stumble into something that they shouldn't have and ask too many questions at the motel they're hiding at, and so kind of spirals out of control from there. But yeah, it's got a good mix of thriller and serial killer and mass killer and all that fun stuff.
So what inspired that? Because it's an interesting setup, because it's sort of a slasher, but then you've got the fugitive as the protagonist.
It was originally written as a crime thriller movie before I ever introduced the mass killer element into it. That came later and kind of helped fill in some of the gaps of the screenplay that I was working on. but the character and the setting, I mean, it's inspired by a few specific movies. Like Rear Window was a big influence on that. When I grew up watching that, always loved the helplessness of being stuck in a location and not be able to actually do anything. So that was a big driver. And then I've actually worked in law enforcement for many years, and so a lot of the characters and things like that kind of come from people I've met, and not any one person per se, but like just that type, right? Someone who's messed up, but they're not a bad person, and just trying to figure out what to do next. So
you're inspired by the movie, but once you start making it, is it hard to like, okay, we're the main character is basically in this one hotel room. Once you start making the film, was it hard to like, we have to keep this interesting and also keep it, people on the edge of their seats because this guy can't, isn't going to be venturing out in other places?
yeah, so originally it kind of was conceived as like a true one location movie. That evolved quite a bit. We're fortunate that we got to jump out from that location a lot and visit some other good areas. So as far as keeping it entertaining, where with Colin in the room, I don't know if I ever felt like I was worried about it, because again, we get to jump out and take breaks from him. And when you're with Colin, everything is just moving. There's always something happening. There's not a lot of time to get bored, because he's hearing this is happening, this person's showing up. So we tried to structure it in a way that it wouldn't drag. And the movie comes in just right about an hour and a half right now, and so there's not a ton of time for it to slow down, especially with how much we've crammed in. There's a lot of story, a lot of character, a lot of scares, and so it's again, the audience will decide if we succeeded on that, but I feel like it's pretty well paced at this point, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
Guess
How about had you worked with Colin before? Did you know him before, hiring for the movie?
No, I met Colin at a film festival. We were screening one of our other features called They Live Inside Us at this horror festival in St. George, and I got asked to do an actors panel with Colin Cunningham and Ted Raimi. So I got there were Ted Raimi and Colin. And I'm just, mainly independent. And so that blew my mind. I was starstruck myself being up there. But so I met those two. And afterwards, I just kind of talked to Colin a bit, and I was working on the idea, and I just floated it by him. I didn't think he was going to say anything, but he's like, that sounds great. Hit me up, gave me his card. And we just kind of stayed in touch. And I'd seen Colin in things growing up, TV shows and movies. And so without a doubt, I knew he was fully capable of doing it. And so it kind of was always going to be him if he was willing, and I'm really glad he jumped on board.
Yeah, you said the movies open up to those other characters and those other locations, but it's still a lot him in that room. And if he's not a really good performer, like the movie won't work.
You get sick of it quick, yeah.
Even when he doesn't have dialogue, I think just his reaction shots are great in the movie.
Oh yeah. He prepped for that part for months. I mean, we talked about it. I sent him movies to watch with characters that I kind of thought matched, like Edward Norton's character in American History X was kind of one that I drew from a little bit. And so he was super prepared when he came in. I mean, he had everything down, and we had talked about it so much beforehand. There wasn't a lot to figure out with the character, because we both had just hashed it out over and over and over again. So that was a benefit when we started filming. He and I both already knew what we wanted. He'd kind of figured it out, and I kind of knew how I wanted to direct him, and it meshed pretty well. We didn't have a lot of issues. So
that's a good person, though. Ed Norton from American History X, because he's a very unlikable character to begin with, but you have to have sympathy for him as the movie goes on for it to work. And so to have your protagonist set up as like a criminal, what were the challenges? Because he has to be someone that the audience wants to root for.
Yeah, so that was always a conversation that Mike Balliff and I had a lot, was we got to make sure people actually like Gabe. And when Colin would act the part, he'd do a lot of variations. He'd do some that were more mean. He'd do some that were more nice. He'd do some that were in the middle. And in the editing room, we kind of decided to go for the more empathetic, because there are takes where Colin, for example, is way meaner to Carly than he is in the movie, because we wanted to play with that and really bring that anger out. But we learned pretty quick, like, they're going to hate him if we do it. So we leaned more into the empathetic character. And then some of the scenes that we shot like the scene at the snow cone shack was kind of an accident. Like in the script, that's just a flashback, but we were filming it, and it's like, why don't we shoot a full scene showing his struggle here to really show how much his life sucks when this was happening? And so things like that, I think, helped build that character into someone you can relate to more, right? If not relate to, like a bit, understand his struggle, right? He's not just a jackass. He made a mistake, but he's not, he's
a human being. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, any of like your former workers or friends from when you worked in, if you were police or what, but have they watched the movie or watch any of your movies?
Yeah, a few of them are in it. So
oh wow, that's pretty cool.
I actually am still a cop, so that's the funny thing. Indie film's a cruel mistress. You can make money at it, but can't always make a living at it. But yes, so my partner in the movie, the character I play, the marshal, my partner is an actor as well. He's a friend of mine. The other officers in the sequence in the end, when the raid on the motel, all that, are actually real officers who, a lot of them are on the fugitive team that I've worked on. So it's like we actually orchestrated that to look real and feel real. So those are all real cops. So
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I told them, I'm like, hey, just treat it like we're hitting a hotel. Okay. So.
Oh, I like that. So just a kind of a technical question there. Are there any guidelines? Like, are they allowed to wear their uniforms? Can you show like any of the cars? Like,
I think the directive from my chain of command was no actual equipment from the police force. So the vests were okay. We put marshal patches on and everything. So that's all real gear, except we replaced it all with, obviously fake guns and changed the patches out and fake tape, things like that. So the props were all fake, but in terms of the gear setup, that was actually basically what we all wear. So that's fairly accurate. I always want you watch these cop shows where they run into a room and they're like, freeze, I always hated that, and I didn't want that. I wanted to make sure we actually did it cool, right, and made it interesting. We changed a few of the things to make it a little more thematic, maybe not exactly, but most of it's pretty close to what you'd see in real life. So
obviously not with this movie, since you have other policemen in it. But did you ever keep that a secret to anyone else that you make indie films?
Yeah, it's not something I advertise with the people I work with. My immediate circle, yes, but the people I encounter, it's just a nice blend. And I mean, cat's out of the bag now, I guess. That was kind of inevitable. But yeah, I've had a couple people who I've run into who've recognized me from something and stuff like that. Not very often, but yeah, it's try to keep them separate as much as I can, but only so much I can do, right?
Yeah.
So.
No, I just find interesting. Is there any because you show room number 9? I just wonder if that was in reference to anything, if it was like a personal thing to you, or if it's a reference to anything else.
No, purely logistic. The motel, has only so many rooms. We needed a specific layout. The funny thing is, the movie takes place in room 9, but it was actually the interior was shot in a different room. We actually swapped that out. I can't remember all the reasons why. I think it was the room was flipped and one had some issues and had a door. There was a few reasons, but yeah, a lot of it, the interior was actually shot in a different room at the motel. We wanted one in the middle of the L shape so you could get some good shots of it as opposed to the corner. Yeah. So it was kind of more just a logistic thing.
So, you're talking like partly a thriller. Is it horror, whatever? Now, you played a lot of festivals, which are horror festivals. One of the things I like about festivals is, movies play that don't fit in one genre. They're multiple genres. So did you have any issues like going to the festivals with the movie? Did anybody like, this isn't straight horror or anything like that?
No, I think the horror stands out enough that we never had any pushback on it. I think the thriller elements, to your point, keep it interesting, right? I think taking that approach with some of the more tense scenes where it's more high adrenaline as opposed to a horror scene, I think that actually helped pace the movie out a little bit more. Again, that's just my opinion, but
well, there's a lot of movies, like even Saw movies, you could say, they're thriller on some level and they're horror at another level. There's
Saw
a lot of
2.
movies
I love Saw 2.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that was an inspiration, but I definitely liked that one, how they jump back and forth between the house and the cop and doing that. So yeah, I mean that's a great example. And I think, that obviously lands in horror, I would think,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Usually, the movies, horror movies, unless they get up for Oscars, then they change the name to thriller, like
Yeah.
like a
I've
Hannibal
heard
movie
that
or
one.
something.
That kind of pisses me off. Just nominate the horror, right? Get the
Yeah.
horror film.
So, how about the look of Paleface himself? Like, what was the thought there, and how hands on you were, like, actually the look of the mask?
So I drew some really crappy sketches and gave them to our mask designer, and he kind of just went with it. And so he would send us revisions of the mask, and I'd say, add this there, add this there. But I wanted it to. I find that filmmakers and creators, if they're really allowed to have that control, they get more invested in it. And right, so I wanted the mask to really come from Billy. I wanted him to really make it his own. I wanted Colin to really have the freedom on the character. All those things, I think it gets people really excited to actually contribute. And so I kind of turned Billy loose, and he came up with that idea, and I just love it. And the design of the costume I kind of was involved with. As you know, Paleface has his head shaved. Originally, we were going to have kind of like Bane. We were going to have the mask with a shaved head.
Mhm.
And we kind of felt bad about making our actor have a shaved head for multiple months,
Yeah.
So we decided to go with the hood and then have him shave his head for that one scene. But yeah, I think ultimately it's probably the right choice. I think it would have been a bit on the nose with the shaved head, and so it was a call that Mike made, my buddy, and so ultimately I think we made the right call on that.
You said several months. So did you shoot all at once, or did you shoot like when everyone had time off? Or?
It was 3 blocks. So we shot the. Sorry, I'm trying to remember. We shot the opening scene for the crowdfund. A couple weeks later, we shot the very ending scene that plays during the credits. Then we had a block of the motel. A few months later in April, that was our main production block. Then about 2 months later, we did the rest of the stuff, the marshals, the raid, all that. So 2 main blocks with a few fillers here or there. So production was, about a year, but most of that was contained to those 2 blocks. So
Yeah. By the way, I really love the poster art. It's got that classic like painted look. It really stands out. I think it looks great. So I don't know, who did the poster art, but it really works.
it's Sadist Art Designs. Look him up on Instagram. He did our last movie too. He's amazing. If you go check out his art, he's done a lot of movie posters dating way back to titles you'd probably even recognize. The dude is incredible. We knew from the very conception we're going to have Mark do the poster again. It was awesome.
I would put that on a shirt if I was you. It's pretty sweet. So.
It is actually. We have some shirts. So.
Oh, nice. All right, I wouldn't mind getting one then, because I think the poster's great.
Give me your info when we're done. I'll happily get one sent to you.
All right, yeah, definitely. So, the festival run. I saw you guys played a ton of festivals. You said you met Colin at a festival, so you have experience at the festivals. When you're making the movie, was the idea like we're gonna submit it to festivals?
Yeah. We always wanted to have a good festival run with this one. The last one we did kind of got derailed by COVID. The movie came out right when COVID hit, so we basically Horror Fest was one of the only in-person ones I got to go to, and I'm glad I did because again I met Colin. Fate there, right?
Yeah.
But, so we really wanted to actually get to tour this one, and so we were pretty fortunate to get into some fun ones. Like we screened at Fright Fest in London and New York and LA, and so we got to go to some fun ones and kind of make up for not having been able to on the last one.
Yeah.
We always wanted to get it out there. We love the festival scene, and we have so much fun going to them. So
yeah, I do too, and that obviously there was a lot worse things about COVID, but for me personally, like a big part was not being able to go to the festivals. Yeah. And when I started saying that, I'm like, that's kind of a bad thing to say when people had much worse things than not going to a movie festival.
I think people know what you mean. Yeah, and
yeah.
we all got stuck, and hey, it gave me time to write. So yeah.
So what would you say the benefits are of festivals? Because even just this interview, I think you could see, like, you met Colin, you make connections. So, overall, what are the benefits of an independent filmmaker going to festivals?
you get to, I mean, for me, it's like I love to watch specifically movies that say we're nominated for something we lose. I always make it a point to watch the movies that I lose to. And I've actually, I think I can safely say, increased my capability because I'll watch them and I'm like, I know why, right? I'll see direction, I'll see technical achievements, I'll see these things that it's like, okay, this is what I need to improve in. So it's a good opportunity for you to weigh yourself against your competition in a friendly way, but it's also networking is incredible if you actually do it. Obviously, everyone is kind of in the same boat at these festivals, with the exception of maybe some massive ones where Nicolas Cage shows up or something.
Right. Yeah.
It puts you in a realm of people who are in the same struggle that you're in, and it gives you an opportunity to reflect. So and plus they usually have awesome panels, and you can learn, go take a makeup class or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, school for filmmakers. I did a little film school, but to me, it's like I learned by watching other people and seeing what to do, what not to do. So it's just the ultimate opportunity to self-reflect as a creator, to go and sit among people who are doing the same thing you are, and kind of see where you land.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. So, will we ever see a sequel?
Oh God, I think that totally depends on how the movie does. I have a sequel idea. I know what it would be. I fleshed out a couple scenes of it, so I mean, yeah, never say never. I have a good idea. We'll see what happens. Obviously, if it doesn't do anything, then probably not. But if there's some attention and people like it, and it wasn't a crazy expensive movie to make, so I mean, if it does all right, yeah, there's definitely an idea there. I know where it would go, and I think people would like it. If they like this one, they'll like what I have in mind for a next one if it ever happens. So.
And where can people go to see? Because you have the limited run, and then it'll be on VOD. So do you have a website or social media where people can see, where they could get to see it, at the theater?
Yeah, I think all of that is going to be through Epic Pictures. If you go to Epic Pictures' main website, our movie's currently up there, front and center, so you can check that out. It'll be available on demand, most streaming platforms, from Amazon, Apple, and things like that. And so, yeah, pretty much wherever you get movies, you'll be able to find it.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I hope people check out the movie. Yeah,
it was great talking to you. Like I said, give me your info. I'll get you a swag bag.
I'll email it if they want. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Tim Dry, and I'm coming to you from London in the United Kingdom. Just a little bit about myself, just enough to whet your appetite. I played 2 character roles in Return of the Jedi. One was Jay Quill, a bad boy. One was a Mon Calamari officer. Anyway, I also played the title role in Extra. The point of this little video is to say that A, I have known Neil, Annabelle and Troy for many years now, but I am enormously excited to be a tiny part of their upcoming debut feature, Arbor Day. And I will be providing
the voice of the demon tree. Do you think you're ready to handle this?
Anyway, stay tuned for more info. It's gonna be monstrous.
Ciao for now.
Hello, my name is Dan Yeager. I am best known as the actor who portrayed Leatherface in 2013's Texas Chainsaw 3D. But I am happy to announce that I will be a part of an upcoming motion picture project called Arbor Day, wherein I will lend my voice to the character Jojo the Safety Squatch. Anyway, I am looking forward to it, and I hope you are too.